Ever get that feeling?
Yeah.
Like you're talking but not really connecting.
Oh, yeah.
Your message is getting lost somewhere between you and the other person.
Happens all the time.
Well, today we're diving deep into cracking the code of communication.
Ooh, code cracking. I like it.
We're going to focus on those little nuances we often miss.
The stuff we don't even realize we're doing, right?
Exactly. And for this deep dive, our guide is Two Sheet.
Hold on.
That's Communication Bible by Stan.
Got it.
It's translated by Luo Mushin.
Okay.
And trust me, this isn't your typical active listening advice.
No statements here.
Nope, this book digs way deeper. It's about how we interpret things, nonverbal cues, the stuff beyond words.
Yeah, exactly. Even silence itself can totally change how a message comes across.
Fascinating. The book starts with this idea that communication has 4 goals.
4 goals, huh? Sounds simple enough.
It does, but how often do we actually hit all of them? Think about it.
Okay, lay it on me. It's not enough for our message to just be heard. Stanton says we need our communication to be received, understood, accepted, and to actually lead to action.
Whoa, okay. That's a lot more than just talking, isn't it?
It is. It's a whole process. And I'll admit, I'm guilty of assuming step 1 is enough. Like, oh, they heard me, we're good.
Yeah, but do they get it? Do they agree? And most importantly, are they going to do something about it?
Exactly. Recognizing these 4 goals is powerful. It's like a tool for diagnosing why communication breaks down.
Ooh, like a communication autopsy.
Exactly. Say you're trying to convince your team to use a new system. You give them all the details, the plan, but they resist.
Classic. Happens all the time.
Right. So using those 4 goals, you might realize, okay, they heard me, but they don't understand why this is important.
No understanding, no acceptance, no action. It all makes sense now.
Right. It's like we're speaking different languages.
Yeah.
Which leads to the book's next big point. Words are not enough.
There's a great example in the book using the word DAP. DAP, depending on you, it could mean nothing, or it could be slang for a specific type of shoe.
Ah, I see. So it's about personal interpretation. And that applies to way more than just slang.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about abstract ideas like danger or love. A firefighter's idea of danger is totally different from a new parent's.
And don't even get me started on love. That word can mean a million things to a million different people.
Exactly. Communication isn't just sending a message, it's bridging the gap between those interpretations.
Mind blown. So if words aren't enough, what else is there?
Well, the book dives into meta-communication, everything beyond just the words. It talks about paralanguage, things like tone of voice, how fast or slow we speak.
Okay, I'm following.
But it goes way beyond that. Facial expressions, body language, eye contact, how far we stand from someone, all these little cues we often miss. A nod, how we dress, even our handwriting.
It's all sending a message, right?
It is, and often those messages are louder than the words themselves. Think about it. A parent sarcastically says, "Oh, thanks a lot for cleaning your room." Oh, we all know that tone.
Right. They're not actually grateful. You trust their tone and expression more than the actual words.
Exactly. Meta-communication wins when it clashes with the words. Which brings us to another powerful tool, silence.
Ooh, silence.
Have you ever been completely ghosted?
Like someone pretending not to know you.
Yeah. That awkward silence is almost threatening.
It's interesting how the book points out that silence is often seen negatively in Western culture. It can make people uncomfortable.
It can feel like disinterest, for sure.
But used right, silence can be so powerful, especially to encourage someone to open up more. Imagine a therapist pausing after their client shares something vulnerable.
Giving them space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That silence creates space for deeper reflection, for sharing more. It's like silence can be a question mark,
Prompting the other person to say more.
Exactly. There's so much power in silence.
But it's got to be used intentionally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Use it to listen, to encourage, to create space. Don't let it become a weapon or a way to avoid tough conversations. Silence can be a tool, not a shield. I like that.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered words, tone, body language, even silence. It's like this whole orchestra of communication, right?
It really is. And the book throws in another fascinating element, time.
Time. Okay, this I gotta hear.
It's about how our perception of time can totally influence how our message is received.
Oh, I have a story about this. I was once crazy early for a meeting with a really important client.
Oh, no.
I thought it showed I was eager, ready to go, but they saw it as me being pushy.
Wow.
Like I didn't respect their time. Talk about a miscommunication.
That's a perfect example of how time perception can be cultural.
It's true. Different cultures view time differently.
Even the way we structure our calendars affects it. Think about the different calendars we have. The Christian calendar, the Islamic calendar, even those retail calendars focused on sales seasons.
It shapes how we understand and value time. And it's not just cultures, is it?
No, not at all. Think about business time versus retail time. One is all about appointments and deadlines.
The other's more flexible, adapting to the flow of customers.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, what's your perception of time? Are you super punctual? Or more go with the flow?
That's a good question for our listeners to think about. How does your time perception impact your communication?
It's definitely something to consider.
Okay, before we spiral down the time vortex, let's get back to basics. The book covers a lot of ground on body language. Space, territory, posture, nodding, facial expressions, eye contact, gestures, even touch.
It's a lot to unpack, that's for sure.
Where do we even start?
Well, let's pick a couple of interesting ones. How about pupil dilation?
Okay, pupil dilation. That's interesting.
It's amazing how something so subtle can make someone seem more attractive.
Really? Just from their pupils?
Yeah. It can also indicate excitement.
Wow. And what about posture?
Posture's a big one. Studies show that people who agree with each other often unconsciously mirror each other's posture.
So if I want to build rapport, I should try subtly matching someone's posture. That feels kind of sneaky.
It does, but it makes sense, right? It's like we're saying, hey, we're on the same page, without actually saying it.
It's like a secret code. These are just a few examples of how much body language can say. I guess context is key, though, right?
Absolutely. A single gesture can mean different things depending on the situation, who's involved. It's all about reading the room.
I'm starting to feel like a communication detective, picking up on clues, interpreting them, and adjusting my own communication accordingly. That's pretty cool.
It is. It's like you're unlocking a secret language. And to take those detective skills to the next level, the book talks about 2 modern approaches that can really help us communicate better.
Oh. Give me the goods. What are they?
NLP and emotional intelligence.
Okay, so break those down for me. What are NLP and emotional intelligence, and how do they fit into all of this?
NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay, that sounds pretty intense.
It sounds complicated, but it's really about the connection between our brains, our language, and our behaviors.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
One of its core concepts is mirroring, which we just talked about. By subtly matching someone's body language, tone, even their breathing patterns, you can build rapport and trust.
It's like creating a subconscious connection, making someone feel more at ease, more open to what you have to say.
Exactly. And then there's emotional intelligence, or EQ. It's all about understanding and managing emotions, both our own and other people's.
I've heard of that. It's about self-awareness, empathy, being able to handle your own emotions and social situations gracefully.
You got it. It's like fine-tuning our meta-communication antenna.
I like that, meta-communication antenna. So by developing our emotional intelligence, we become more tuned in to all those subtle emotional signals we send and receive.
Precisely. We're more aware of how our emotions affect our communication, and we're better at interpreting the emotions behind other people's words and actions.
This is getting very strategic. It's not just talking and listening anymore. It's about understanding all these complex layers. Words, emotions, body language, even time.
It really is. And the book introduces one more framework to help us understand this dance: transactional analysis.
Transactional analysis. We touched on this before.
We did. It's a model that analyzes interactions through the lens of something called ego states.
Ego states.
There are 3: parent, adult, and child.
Right. It's about recognizing which state we're communicating from. But how does this help us, practically speaking?
Well, it helps us navigate tricky interactions more effectively. For example, if someone's coming at us from their critical parent ego state, we can choose to respond from our adult state.
So instead of getting all defensive and reacting emotionally, I can take a breath and respond in a more thoughtful, level-headed way.
Exactly. Transactional analysis gives us a framework to understand what's really going on beneath the surface of a conversation.
So we can make conscious choices about how we respond.
Exactly. It's about taking control of the interaction.
This has given me a whole new perspective on communication. It's not just about exchanging information. It's about navigating these complex emotional landscapes, these power dynamics that are always at play.
It's about understanding the unspoken rules of the game.
And the book introduces one final, really thought-provoking concept: the importance of recognizing the unspoken. I'm really curious about this. Tell me more.
Stanton argues that what we don't say can be just as important as what we do say. It's about paying attention to the silences, the nonverbal cues, the subtle changes in energy and emotion.
It's like being a communication detective again, looking for clues in those spaces between the words.
Exactly. By tuning into those unspoken messages, we can get a much deeper understanding of what someone's really thinking and feeling. We're more attuned to the subtle dynamics at play.
It's like there's this whole other level of communication happening beneath the surface, right?
There is. And by becoming aware of it, we can navigate relationships, social situations with more sensitivity and skill.
You know, it strikes me that to be a better communicator, we got to understand ourselves first.
Absolutely.
Our own style, our strengths and weaknesses, those little habits that might be holding us back.
That's where the book's discussion of personality types and emotional intelligence is so helpful.
Oh yeah, that was a good section.
It makes you think, am I naturally outgoing or more introverted, direct or diplomatic?
Right. Figuring out our own tendencies helps us adapt.
Yeah.
Like learning different communication dialects.
Exactly. And Stanton gives us a great framework for that, a 7-step process to craft really clear, persuasive messages.
7 steps. Okay, I'm all ears.
Whether it's an email, a presentation, even just an important conversation, this works. Step 1 is defining your purpose.
Okay, purpose. Makes sense.
What are you trying to achieve? What's the outcome you want?
Got it. What's next?
Gather all the info you need, like a detective gathering clues.
Love that analogy.
Then you got to organize that information logically. It's
Yeah.
like putting a puzzle together.
So we're not just throwing words around, we're carefully building a message.
Right. Once you have the pieces, you need to figure out the best way to present them. Chronologically, by importance, or maybe complexity.
Okay, makes sense.
Create an outline, a roadmap for your listener.
Leading them through the information.
Exactly. Now you can dive into writing. Don't overthink it. Just get the ideas down.
Just to get out there.
Then the final steps. Revise, edit, polish. Make sure your language is clear, concise, impactful.
This 7-step process feels so helpful.
It does. And remember, this is an ongoing journey. We're always learning and growing as communicators.
So true. But by using these insights, we can become more confident and skillful.
Absolutely. And more influential, too.
I'm definitely going to try this. And I challenge our listeners to do the same.
Yes. Pay attention to the unspoken. Practice those listening tips.
And remember those 6 C's.
What's left unsaid can be just as powerful. Pay attention to those silences, those subtle cues.
Become a communication detective, uncovering those hidden meanings and understanding each other better. What a great way to wrap up this deep dive.
It has been fascinating, hasn't it?
Absolutely. To all our listeners, keep those conversations flowing, keep those connections strong, and keep diving deep into the amazing world of human communication.